In this tutorial, you're going to learn about writing conditionals using Objective-C for this little simple iPhone application. Let's say you have an application and based upon whoever enters their name into the box, you want to give them a special message. So if it's Heidi, we're going to remember to take vitamin D. If it's John, we're going to remember to say I love you. If it's Jamie, we're going to tell him to have a good day in football. And if it's Ben, we're going to tell him to have fun in Washington. You might be wondering what's going to happen if a name that we haven't listed here is entered. If any other name other than those four are entered, we're just going to tell that person to have a nice day. The first thing we want to do is go ahead and start an Xcode project. And for this, we're going to use a single view application. And we'll give it a name. I'm going to name this one Hello to All. Tell Xcode where you want to save the project. And then we're ready to get started. Now, always I like to start with going ahead and designing the interface. So in order to get the interface to look the way I want, I'm going to grab a couple of labels. And I need an additional label for the secret message that I'm going to output. I need a text field for the user to be able to enter their name. And I need a button. And now I'm ready to make these labels look the way I want. The first one's going to be a static label so that I can just say, I think what I had before was good morning. And you can see it runs off there, no problem. I just grab the anchor points and get it the way I want. I think I want that to be a lowercase m, however. Now, this label is going to be dynamically written based upon whatever the user inputs in this text field. So for now, I'm just going to delete the default text that lives in there. I am going to stretch it out a little bit for the longer names. And what this label is for our secret message. So I want to take the default label string out of that guy too. Now I'm going to increase the text field just a little bit in case we have somebody with a long name inputting their name. And for my button, I'm going to go ahead and say talk to me here. And I can just change the text. Easily. Now that I have the interface defined, I'm ready to go in and associate outlets and actions for this interface. In order to do that, I'm going to grab my viewcontroller.h file. But I want to be able to see the interface file at the same time because I'm going to just easily connect these two with a drag and drop. So what I want to do is go back and click on my storyboard and then click on my little editor button. Line it up nicely. Get over to my .h file. And now I'm ready to associate these different objects with my .h file. So I'm going to first click on the field where the user's name is going to appear. I'm going to click on over to the .h file to work with. And what I'm going to do is hold down the control key while I drag over. And where I want to drag to is in between the @ interface and @ end. And I need to make sure that the connection is set to outlet. And what I'm going to name this outlet is user output. I want to make sure the type is a UI label and that the storage is weak. And now what I want to do is connect the secret message. Oh, we better make that a little bit bigger so that the whole message can show up when it displays. I want to connect the secret message in the same way. So I hold down the control key and I'm going to drag over. This is going to be an outlet UI label, and I'm going to name this secret message. Connect. And now for the user input, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hold down the control key. I'm going to drag over, and I'm going to name this one user input with a lowercase u. Connect. All right. Last but not least, I need to connect up this button, and this is going to be an action. So I'm going to hold down the control key, drag over, and under the connection, I want to make sure that I've selected action, and I want to name this set output because that's what the button is doing. It's setting the output. I want to make sure again, we've got it under action under connection. I want to make sure that the event is touch up inside, and then I'm going to click connect. So now I have the interface connected to my .h file, and now all that's left is I need to associate an action or a series of actions to our set output method here. So what I want to do is jump over to my .m file. I'm going to go down and I'm going to look for that set output method. Going to go after the right curly bracket, and I'm just going to give myself a little bit of space there. And what I want to do is first take care of setting that initial label to whatever the user's name is. I'm going to use that text reference to do that. So I'm going to set self user output text equal to all right. So now what I just did is set it to where whatever the user enters in the input box is going to populate the field for the user input text. And what I want to do before I test this is make sure that all of my fields are lined up here and able to fit in good space. Remembering that when I'm running this, my keyboard is going to pop up. Now, let's give it a good test real quick. And you can see that just from that one simple line of code, self user output equals text equals self user input equals text, we've got the user input populating the output label. The next thing we want to do is use conditional programming to be able to determine what string the user entered and then give a different message based upon whoever entered in their name. So we're going to use an if-else structure for that. And what I want to do is pop back over here to my M file. And to make this easier to see, I'm just going to click where I've just got the single page and then open up my M file. Now what I want to do is add to my method here, and I want to check whatever the user entered into my input text file And I want to compare that to some static string that I'll have embedded in my if else. So we'll first start it for just Heidi, for example. I'm going to use if. And I'm going to check whatever that text was. I'm going to use my is equal comparison, string comparison operator. And then remember, strings in Objective-C have to be preceded with the @ sign. And if whatever the user entered into my user input box is equal to Heidi, now I just want to print something out within my secret message box, or label, pardon me. And again, don't forget that in Objective-C, strings begin with the @ sign. All right, so now I have a conditional here. I'm checking to see if whatever came through in the user input text box is equal to, and then I'm hard coding a string Heidi here. If that evaluates to true, in my secret message label, I'm going to print, don't forget to take your vitamin D. So let's take a look and see if this thing works. So we'll drag our simulator over. Give it a run. Type in Heidi. And notice, since I entered Heidi, it printed the string to that secret message label area. So this is an example of the single selection if statement. Now, we can also do an if-else, which will allow us to establish actions for either the true side or the false side of this conditional. So the way we do that is we just use the keyword else. And let's say we're only looking for the Heidi now. Let's copy this instruction. And let's say we just want to say, if the string's not equal to Heidi, we're just going to say, you're not Heidi. So as you can see, again, the way our if-else works is we're evaluating this expression. If that expression results in true, then this statement will execute. If this expression results in false, then this statement is going to execute. So let's take a look and see how this works. Instead of Heidi, I'm going to put in Joe. Good morning, Joe, you're not Heidi. So you can see that conditional worked for this example. Let's take it a little bit further and see if we can nest up this if-else conditional statement and check for a series of different names and give them different secret messages based upon the person. So to save recording time, I just went ahead and wrote those nested if-else statements. And if you take a look, you can easily see how the program will check to evaluate each string to see what is the appropriate message for each given person. Now you'll notice at the very end, once I check to see if user input is equal to Ben, I say enjoy Washington, but notice this else statement actually belongs to this initial if. And what that does is, if the strings don't match in any of the given conditionals, ultimately it's going to print have a nice day. Let's take a look and see if this thing works. So you can see we print in Heidi. Let's It's going to tell me to remember to take vitamin D. Jamie is going to say have fun with football. Ben is going to tell him to enjoy Washington. And if some other string is entered, it's just going to say have a nice day.